Welcome back to West Texas View.
Welcome back to the West Texas View. Larry and Bill are telling us what's happening in Cuba. And as we left for the break, you were just telling about the minister there who had all the property belongs to the government.
Correct.
And so somehow or another, he had been able to get his house bought to be his home and the church building.
Well, it was his home, but he allowed it to be, or figured out a way to have it transferred. There has to be some transfer of value, so he had the church buy it. So the church now meets in the courtyard of his house, and he is living with his in-laws. A very unusual transaction in Cuba. We also know that the church in Havana bought a building, an old house in Havana, unheard of. The government does not sell property to churches because they're atheistic. Churches are...
They don't want any churches.
So what happened was they figured out a way, and now the church was able to acquire this house. It's architecturally a colonial style house, and most of the structures in Cuba, as you understand, have not been kept up for 50 years. So the paint is
peeling off.
Oh, and it's faded, and the place is crumbling. And so I had the opportunity of touring this house that they're making into a preacher training school. It's made of cinder blocks before we had those dowel rods, rebar put in. And beautiful porch on top, beautiful porch on the bottom, columns. And you go inside, and I remember looking, and there's a circular staircase. It's made of marble, including the banister. Most people don't remember that Cuba produced marble. In the center, right under the staircase, is this mosaic tiles. Beautiful, beautiful, dust covered. I had to move the dirt out of the way. And most people don't know that Cuba was the center of arts for mosaic tile. And this was a tile from that time. And it was beautiful. And I stood there looking at this decrepit, falling down building and thinking, the church just bought this? And then I talked to Luis. Luis is living in that spot. He's cleaning it up, dressing it up. And he said, Bill, we're going to teach people to tell about Jesus from here. Imagine what it's going to be like. And it was almost mesmerizing because I stood there and I went, oh yeah, this is going to be great. The building hadn't changed. But Luis's faith and aspirations
and vision
changed the way I was looking at it. As you know, about 2 years ago, Cuba was hit by 4 hurricanes, one right after the other. Many of those old buildings collapsed because they just deteriorated so much. And in our office, we are very concerned because it's not Cuba that was hit by hurricanes. It's Cardenal, it's Enrique, it's Ludmila, people we know. And that makes the difference, as it did to Jesus. Jesus knew people, not just collectively, but personally. It amazes me how much progress. And now with Fidel's brother, Raul, being the president, he's opened up, loosened things. People can now own cell phones, which are common for us, but it wasn't for them. People can now have internet connections in their houses, assuming they can pay. Now you have to understand, Cuban internet, I think, is the second slowest in the world. Venezuela just put in its first optic fiber cable from Venezuela to Havana. But that is not spread out to everybody in the world. The Cuban people are phenomenal.
We don't understand. In other countries, the highway system that we have here are all of the other technology systems that we have in place.
Infrastructure is going to play a major role in everything that happens in the growth of the church there. And infrastructure also is a mirror of the repression that the government has forced on that country.
That's right.
And in spite of the negatives that we can say about the government, we have to look at the bright spot. And the fact is that the government and its relationship with the church now is what is allowing this explosive growth. And it's the transparency that the churches have with the government. The fact that we've registered, we're perceived as an entity that's focused only on Jesus. Our meetings are open, we invite the public in, we invite the government in. We want that transparency. We welcome that. And I think the government understands that that's a good thing. That's not a threat to the government. That's a good thing for the people. It's a good thing for everyone. And that's an aspect of our success and our growth in Cuba, is the fact that we are cooperating and working closely with the government in sync with their expectations and demands, and in essence rendering to Caesar what is Caesar, and they're allowing us then to prosper and grow as that's our hope for the future.
In our history, we have donated 2 ambulances, one to Matanzas, one to Havana. There's an organization out of Nashville called Healing Hands International. They were able to get an ambulance fully equipped, and Herald of Truth was able to get a fully equipped ambulance, not the most modern ambulance, but it was more, it was modern for them. And we were able to transport those to Cuba, offload them, present them to each city's government, and then they were put to work helping people. And so the idea is, oh, Iglesias de Cristo helps us. Well, we like them. And so when we're there, somebody always asks me, well, do you feel safe? Yes, very much so. Is there somebody there listening to you? I hope so. I mean, is there a government official spying on you?
Yeah.
Probably. But we're talking about Jesus. We're not talking about changing
Revolution
the government.
or
We're not talking about anything like that. We're talking about Jesus. And that is the focus that we've done and we continue to do. And that's been very successful for us in Cuba. And the people there are marvelous.
And so even as Fidel deteriorated and Raul began to take over, you haven't had any change. Our time is up today. It just went so fast, and I'm so happy that Larry and Bill could come back today, and we're going to ask them to come back one more Sunday, and they're going to talk about Africa. Africa, as you know, we have had several people from Africa to come in and talk about the orphanages there and the no-kill policy for animals and some of the dangers that they have from Somalia. And so we want to know more about how they're working in Africa. So we'll see you next Sunday with another program about the Herald of Truth. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for joining us for News West 9's West Texas View with Johnny Lou Avery. This has been a public affairs presentation of KWAB-TV and KWES-TV.